match for that black lady.
I'll take care of Cleopatra Jones.
Cleopatra Jones, starring Tamara Dobson. Co-starring Bernie Casey, Brenda Sykes, Esther Roll, and Shelley Winters as Mommy.
And with your love, oh honey, you shook me.
That's what I call some extra heavy double duty stuff.
Hello, and welcome to Viva La Action, the movie podcast where we're talking all things action movies. The good, the bad, and the underrated. My name is Santi, and with me as always is my co-host, Grayson.
What's up?
What's up?
Not much.
This is if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the first time you've seen our faces.
Well, except for on Instagram, but...
Well, yeah, we've got some pictures up there, but
yeah.
This is the first time in motion.
I know. Ooh, in motion.
Did I ask how you were doing already?
No.
Oh, okay. How you doing?
I'm chilling. I'm vibing.
That's good.
I'm chilling and grilling, you know.
So, what are you grilling?
Shrimps on the Barbie.
So I realized because we're uploading like the video to this to YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to get to watch all of our mistakes.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be able to edit it. If you listen to the audio, you can hear the moments where I edit out all of our ums and ahs. But but this is this is fun and unedited, which
hell yeah,
that might be tedious as hell. I don't know, but we'll find out. Let's see. So, now I just lost track.
Well, it happens.
This is our first time doing this remotely.
Hell yeah, it's
not for any good reason. It's just lack of time.
Yeah.
But
we're very busy people.
We are very busy. I'm busy running around the outback and
completely naked.
Completely naked. It's really a sight to see, but
yeah.
And you're busy being a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
As we can tell from the cattier headphones.
Yeah.
What are you streaming?
It's just 24/7 Nyan Cat.
And it's just you rocking back and forth in the corner.
Just going, hell yeah.
Okay. But this is a podcast, supposedly.
Theoretically,
where we theoretically talk about movies sometimes.
Yeah.
And this week we talked about a movie. We watched Cleopatra Jones.
Yep.
Which is
I actually just finished it probably 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Well, okay, so here's what happened. I tried to watch it last night and then I got very sleepy, so I went to bed and then I finished it this morning.
That's okay. That's, sometimes you just gotta take a break in between.
Yeah.
I watched it last week and then I watched like half of it again on Thursday.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's like fresh in the brain. I didn't finish the other half, so probably most of our discussion will be focused on the first half of the movie.
That's fair.
I remember what happens. I'm just like,
yeah,
it's murkier. But we watched Cleopatra Jones. It's a 1973 blaxploitation-action film. It stars Tamara Dobson as Cleo, or Cleopatra Jones, as she's sometimes called. The film also co-stars Bernie Casey, Antonio Fargas, Shelley Winters, and Dan Fraser. The film... Go ahead.
Why does that name sound familiar? Dan Fraser. Is he in something that I know?
I don't know. I didn't recognize anything else that he was in. But
okay. It just sounds... Maybe I'm just thinking of the other Fraser.
I was going
to say,
You might be thinking of Brendan Fraser. You might be thinking of the TV show Frasier.
It's a TV show called Frasier.
Yeah, it's like a '90s sitcom.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough.
That's fun for the listeners.
Yeah, this is how my brain works.
That's okay. The film has an 80% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes with a 45% audience score, which is interesting. Normally you see those two numbers flipped.
Yeah. Very strange.
It is strange, but just to give a brief synopsis from IMDb before we get into our discussion, in case you've never seen the movie before. During the 1970s, U.S. Special Agent Cleopatra Jones proves to be an invaluable asset to the local police forces in the war on drugs.
Sure.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that was it. What do we ever know what agency she's actually a part of, or is she just like generic special agent?
I think it's just like generic special agent. I don't because she shows a badge at one point and it just says like U.S. Special Agent.
Yeah,
so I got no idea. It's just,
I was thinking FBI, but that didn't really make any sense because she
No.
was like overseas. So then I was thinking CIA, but
no, just generic special
Run-
agent.
Kroger brand, great value special agent.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the critical information. So before we get into the broader plot and the themes of the film and some background, what did you think of it?
It was actually pretty good. I don't understand the 45%. Like that was actually kind of a banger movie.
Yeah, it's fun. Like it's not. I mean, I don't know where it comes. I think sometimes with Rotten Tomatoes, I think because it's like, obviously they didn't have Rotten Tomatoes in the 70s. They just have it,
Yeah, right, exactly.
from now. So I think like if you're like a modern viewer, like it's not, it's got some like outdated stuff in it. It's a little bit,
sure.
A whole bunch of stuff that we'll talk about. But
It's a product of its time.
yeah, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
it can, I think it could jar you if you're not used to this kind of film.
Yeah, there was a couple moments where I was like, whoa, they said that for sure. So
There's a lot of leering at women.
yes.
There's a lot of like Cleo like entering or exiting a room and somebody being like, hot dog, let me get some of that,
Yeah. Her car though.
Oh, it's great.
I love that car. Yeah, I don't know. I could tell it was very 70s. Like it looks like it was shot on the same camera as Star Wars.
Yeah.
And when the Warner Brothers symbol popped up at the very beginning, it was like the fuzziest fucking thing ever. And I was like, damn, this shit's old.
I miss that logo. Like it doesn't.
Same.
I mean, I wasn't alive when it was really in use, but like whenever you see it pop up like on an old movie, I'm like, damn, they should still use that because that's that's a fire logo.
It's so good.
It's great.
Yeah.
I have a special place in my heart for like old timey like movie logos. Like there's the like black and white like Universal logo that I really love.
I love that
stop
one.
motion like
Yeah.
globe.
Yeah, that one's great. I love what's the lion one?
Oh, the MGM logo.
MGM, yeah, I like that one.
That one's
Just
great.
having like a live lion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was probably all doped up too.
Oh, probably like Cocaine Bear, but they meth lion.
Because I'm sure they shot that in like the 20s or whatever.
Yeah. And then that lion proceeded to eat like 5 people.
Oh yeah. All the executives are dead now we're dead then. They're dead now anyway. But
yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah. So it's an interesting movie. We'll talk a little bit about the background and stuff of it because I've thrown around this word a few times and I haven't really like properly explained it, but this is what's called a blaxploitation film. So if you aren't familiar with what that means,
I am not.
So there was this film movement in the 70s, especially like the early 70s, where a whole bunch of what were called exploitation films started to come out. So it was these like sort of like lower budget, sometimes independent, sometimes like studio funded movies that were produced to kind of like exploit a certain market. So if you look at like something like, we talked about this in a previous episode, like Bruceploitation films, there were these movies that were made to like capitalize on like Bruce Lee and his popularity and stuff. So you have like all these different subgenres. Some are quite broad, like blaxploitation is just really kind of thrown together to mean any kind of movie that was made in this era that was like made to like exploit the black audience. So they use a lot of like common themes and characters and things, but there's like way more specific like exploitation films. Like there's like nunsploitation and there's like like Nazi exploitation.
What the hell?
And like just all kinds of like whack shit. But blaxploitation movies, I found a little like explanation for it. So this was I got this from Wikipedia, which I know you're not supposed to quote Wikipedia, but you know what? This isn't an academic essay. This is a podcast.
Yeah, this isn't high school. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah. Fuck you, teachers.
Yeah.
Especially you, Mrs. Jones. I'm looking at you.
Mrs. Jones, was that actually one of your teachers?
No, I couldn't think of an actual teacher I had.
Oh. Imagine just calling him out on our fucking podcast.
Somebody like sends them a clip and they're like, "Do you know this guy?"
No, I don't. What the fuck?
So this is so Wikipedia defines blaxploitation as an ethnic subgenre of the exploitation film that emerged in the United States during the early 1970s, right? Which is kind of what I already said.
Yeah.
But I found a slightly better definition, and this is from Vincent Canby. He was a writer in the New York Times in the 1970s. And he wrote this in an article that he wrote. He said, blaxploitation films were those supercharged, bad-talking, highly romanticized melodramas about Harlem superstuds, the pimps, the private eyes, and the pushers who more or less single-handedly make Whitey's world corrupt, safe for black pimping, black private eyeing, and black pushing. Yeah.
Man, why don't we write like that anymore in our papers?
I know.
Like,
I think Whitey should be used more. I think that's...
Yup.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry, white viewers. I just used
actually, don't you mean Whiteys?
Oh, sorry, Whiteys. I'm gonna put that in the intro now. It's like,
oh yeah,
as always is my Whitey co-host, Grayson.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what blaxploitation films were. They were made. So originally they were made by black creators, specifically like black writers and filmmakers, like independent filmmakers. The very first blaxploitation film that they talk about is this movie. It's completely insane, but it's called Sweetback's Badass Song. That's like the first.
Wait.
And it's got like all kinds of Z's in it. Like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, it's called Sweetback's Badass Song.
How many Z's?
Like 6.
Incredible. Hi.
But so that movie kind of started like what we think of now as the blaxploitation movement, which in a modern context, like, and even at the time, they're kind of criticized for like exploiting a lot of like stereotypes. So, you have like things like the pimp and like the pusher and stuff like that. But modern critics and some critics at the time too have rightly pointed out that like blaxploitation films kind of like filled this niche that didn't really exist before, which was like when the Black Power movement was kind of happening, and like the feminist movement and civil rights movements and stuff. There kind of became this like push for, audiences wanting to see themselves on screen, right? And prior to something like Sweet Sweetback, you didn't see like Black people in that kind of role,
Right.
like one that kind of, because the movie itself is about like he's like a prostitute and a pimp and like all these other things, and it's like, not, even though that's not necessarily like a good role model, it was kind of like that was the first time like a Black audience had seen like a film that kind of reflected that reality. If you know, like, even though it's like not great, it's like,
Yeah, they're getting something.
Right. They're not just getting something, but it's like it's a movie that kind of reflects like what the Black experience is,
Yeah.
And it's the first time that they had like Black heroes and heroines who like had a substantial role in the movie and like talked like real people and like, kind of so it's interesting. But Cleopatra Jones is also interesting because it kind of comes like towards the end of that era, and it comes at this point where like big movie studios realized that there was money to be made in this movement, and so they started like hiring like white writers and white directors to write these movies. And so Cleopatra Jones is interesting because it's like, on the one hand, it falls into that genre, but on the other hand, it is very like clean compared to a lot of these other movies. Like, there's not really any nudity. Like, the drug use is kind of like, it's there, but it's like kind of off to the periphery.
Yeah, we don't need like anybody actually doing drugs,
right?
And like talked about.
Yeah, and like Cleopatra herself, like even though she is like this Black heroine, she's also like working inside like the white system. Like like she works with like white cops and she's working for the government. So it's kind of interesting because it's like it kind of has a foot in both worlds, but yeah, sorry to talk your ear off. But that's
no, it's fine. I don't know anything about this. When you said blaxploitation the first time, when we were deciding what to watch, I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. And like I had never heard of any of this, and so it's good information to know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it's, I don't know, I'm a big fan of like this era in like movie making, because it's like it's a lot of like, it's kind of like you don't really get this kind of thing anymore, like these like super like crass, like edgy kind of dirty movies.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of movies now are very cleaned up, and like you don't see a lot of the like, I don't know, just like
nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty.
Not the gwitty.
But yeah, so we'll get into the actual movie now, because I think I've done enough film student vomiting at you.
Yeah, that's fine. You can always vomit on me.
Oh, anytime.
Anytime.
That's for a different podcast.
Yep.
That one goes up on our OnlyFans.
That we totally have.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yep.
Oh, this is fun for the YouTube viewers, me clearing my throat.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I've been yawning like a fucking maniac, so I do apologize for that.
That's okay.
It's just I'm sleepy.
We'll have a Grayson yawning cam.
There you go.
It'll just zoom in slowly every time you start to yawn.
Excellent.
But what was I gonna say? It doesn't matter.
The movie.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the movie. Well, one thing right at the start that I wanted to mention, a big like thing in a lot of like blaxploitation films is like the music. And one thing I just want to say right at the top is that I feel like if there's one thing that's missing from like modern movies, it's your movie having a theme.
Yeah.
Like a theme song.
Yeah.
Because I just love that this movie just starts with like Cleopatra's theme.
Yep.
And it's like funky, but there's like a
It
guy
is.
who's like explaining the movie.
Yeah, the music in this movie was just phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
I found myself occasionally like kind of like bopping along to
Oh,
it
yeah.
'cause it slapped so hard.
It's a lot of like bass guitar and
Yeah.
like saxophone and like
Oh,
just jamming.
I love a good saxophone.
Who doesn't?
Weirdos.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm.
But I do like I because I feel like now like it's kind of unusual for like a movie to not have like just a regular classical score. Like,
Yeah.
But I think it's fun when you watch like a movie from the 70s and it's just a lot of like just funking around.
I know. Like, yeah, now it's like you got to get like Eminem and all these people to write very specific songs for the movie.
Venom.
Yep. And then it's like there's no character to it,
Yeah.
Like they didn't go onto some like royalty-free website and went, "Oh yeah, this sounds funky. Slap that bitch in there. Call it a day." Right? So, yeah, I love the music. I think it really tied the whole movie together.
I think so. And I like I said, I like that it's like the lyrics are just somebody being like, "It's Cleopatra. She's a funky, sweet girl," and it's like,
yeah. Ideal music right there.
It is. And I even just like the like ambient music I think is great. Like,
oh, so good.
When she's just like walking down the street and it's just like it's just like
it's so good.
But one thing this movie borrows from, in addition to like the blaxploitation thing, is it borrows a lot from like spy movies, I feel like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like James Bond movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there is a bit of like her like coming around a corner with like a gun, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and like even like the combat was very like it was kind of ridiculous. It was clear that we were like at the end of that like 60s era where like combat was like I bring this up all the time, but it's like the double fisted fucking hit to the back, right?
Yeah.
But you could tell that they were starting to kind of figure out how to do combat choreography. And yeah, it was like as I was watching it, it was almost like I was watching a comic book because I could just imagine like the pow.
Yes.
And like all that kind of stuff. Uh-oh, I lost everything.
That's okay.
But
no,
I
agree.
Yeah, it's very James Bondy.
Yes, and the I think the first like action sequence is the best, not the best one, but one of the best ones where so the plot basically, like, I read the synopsis, but it doesn't really explain like properly what's going on in the movie. But Cleopatra, she's from this kind of urban neighborhood. I don't know if they ever fully explain where it is, but I think it's supposed to be like Los Angeles.
That's what I was thinking. Either that or like New York.
Yeah, it looks more like LA, I think, because you see like palm trees and stuff. But
yeah,
and the place that Cleopatra is from has this like resident drug lord named Mommy.
Oh God, she was the worst. I hate any time that she referred to herself as Mommy.
Yeah,
I was like, can you not do that? Maybe.
Yeah, it's very. It's real hard to watch at times.
Yeah.
But she's like the big boss of like their area.
Yeah.
So she's like a drug lord and she's like a mafioso. We open the movie with like Cleopatra like blowing up one of her poppy fields.
Yeah.
In some vague Middle Eastern country. I think it's supposed to be Turkey, but
yeah, but it looked like it was filmed in Arizona.
Yeah.
I was like literally just like right outside my house.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And so in retaliation, Mommy orders like a police raid on this like rehab facility and like community center that Cleopatra helps to fund. And so the rest of the movie is kind of like Cleopatra like trying to like get to Mommy and mommy like just sending goons at Cleopatra and trying to kill her and whatever.
Oodles of goons.
Oodles of goons. There's a few other like little side plots and things, but
Yeah.
So the opening fight sequence that I was talking about that I think is great is Cleopatra's like coming back to the U.S. and she's at the airport, and mommy sends like a couple of goons to like get her at the airport, and they're like looking around for her, and they like don't know where she is, and then we finally see her, and she's on the like luggage claim, baggage claim, and she does like a couple of like really long kicks.
Oh yeah,
and,
they were just,
There's a great moment where like she kicks one guy, and then one guy like goes for his like pistol, and she does like a real slow like fall back and like grabs her gun and like shoots at him like 12 times.
Yeah, even though it was like a revolver that she had that only had 6 rounds.
But I think it's great, and it's just like the music just like kicks in.
Yeah, it was very good because the way they died too was spectacular. Also, one of the goons that was sent had just the worst haircut.
Yes, he did. I wrote that down as a note.
It was awful.
It's
I was
really
like,
bad.
Dude, see a barber something. Good Lord.
Because it's like stringy, but he's got like a real like high, forehead.
Yeah.
But then he's got these super long like sideburns.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy looked awful.
Yeah, he was the worst. Yeah, that whole fight scene was hilarious. I'm trying to remember. I cannot like fully remember it. All I know that it was I was laughing.
Yes.
Because it was very ridiculous, and I think it set the tone for the rest of the movie. I was like, okay, I kind of know what to expect now.
What's kind of cool about like this movie that I think other blaxploitation films can do, but I think it's kind of unique to this one is like they do a good job like balancing like the heavy themes with like the more like fun like spy stuff. Because there's definitely like this movie, it's not unique in like the kind of some of the stuff that it's talking about, but like what a lot of blaxploitation movies talk about is like the way that like the Black community has kind of been left with like these like problems that are created by like the white power structure.
Yeah.
And so there's like the big theme in this one is like drug abuse and like, kind of how like it's like white, it's like the white, like the police and these like white drug lords that are like putting drugs into like the ghettos. But like, Cleopatra like funds this like rehab center, which is led by Ruben, who's kind of like her love interest / like confidant, like partner. And there's a really like tense scene like right at the beginning where the police like come to like raid the house. But what I loved about that scene is like it's like really tense, but I like that they give like the Black characters like a voice in that scene. Like they're not just the victims. Like Ruben in particular, like the cops are like trying to threaten him, and he's like, if you point that gun at me, I'm gonna shove it up your ass sideways or whatever. Like,
the threats that he was giving were very creative, and I also really like that, like, because a lot of times when we see like raids in like film or TV or whatever, it like the people getting raided, they are just like the victims, and like nobody's listening to them, and there's no like it's very clear that like the police are just exercising all of their power and not really giving a fuck. But in this, like, it was still like a bummer. But it seemed like the Black people had a lot more I just had the word. They just had a lot more say and agency. That's the word. Thank you. Yes, they had a lot more agency in and control in the situation. And like the like I don't know what he was. He wasn't like the captain. But that one cop, he like it was very clear that like this was a bad idea and that he wasn't fully on board, but it was almost like out of his control that it happened.
Right.
And so yeah.
I'll come back to the scene in a second because I have some more things I want to say, but one character that I just adored throughout the whole movie is the police chief.
Oh, yeah.
He's just wonderful. Like, I love that he's like, he respects Cleo. Like, he knows that she's like, this like badass, agent or whatever. But I like that he's just this like, he's almost like a buffoon. Like, he's just like, but he's also just sick of everyone's shit. Like, I like at the beginning, he's like, he has this line where, he's talking about, because he's mad that they did the raid on his house, right? Because he knows that Cleo's going to be upset about it. Yeah. And there's a moment where they're like, sorry, Chief, we couldn't reach her or whatever. And he's like, they got this new invention. It's called the telephone.
That was a very good line. That was a good line. I like that very much. He reminded me of you remember in Hidden Figures?
Yeah.
When that black woman got transferred or like had to work in that one area that was just like all white people, but anytime she had to use the bathroom, she had to go like all the way to a different building.
Right.
And finally the like head of that department or whatever just got fed up with it because he was like, there was like one day where he was like, hey, where is she? And they were like, I think she went to the bathroom. And he's like, where the hell does she go to the bathroom to? And they were like, well, the only bathroom that she can go to. He got all fed up and he took like a wrench or something and he just broke the colored sign off of the door. And he went, there, use any bathroom you want. I don't care. It's very much that vibes.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a fantastic character.
I do like the trope of like guy who is too tired for racism. Like
it's a good trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
They're so much more interested in like other things that they're like, I don't have time to be racist. I got science to do or I got a whole precinct to run.
Right.
I can't deal with any of this crap right now.
Yeah. I one thing I thought was funny is like what's funny about this movie, and I mean it's kind of just something you deal with when you watch like old movies, is the way that people will just say like the most out of pocket like thing, and then like, the female character will just kind of ignore it or just like whatever. But like there's a moment where he's like talking to Cleo on the phone, and he's like, how are you after the airport attack? And she's like, my body is fine. And he's all, it's magnificent.
Yeah. I thought that was a little weird. I was like, why are you?
Yeah. I was like, you dirty old man.
Yeah. Can I say too that the costumes in this movie too were phenomenal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Everybody is like dressed to the nines at like all time.
Yeah. Just like 24/7, like they go to sleep in that shit almost.
Like I love that like Cleo's first outfit when she's in the desert
is God.
Like this like floor length like fur coat that she like whips over her shoulder like when she's like standing,
and it has a raccoon tails sewed to the bottom of it. I was like, God damn. And then she just like orders a fucking airstrike on on a poppy field with a Cold War era fighter jet. Thought that was very funny.
It's a great intro.
I think that's where all the budget went to, was that fighter jet.
I think so, because those explosions look very expensive.
Yeah, they had to have been.
But yeah, and I love that like Ruben, her boyfriend, he's also like always just wearing like the best. Like he's got these like great suits that he wears. His afro is always like perfectly like manicured.
Oh yeah, and the hair, like aside from that one white guy that had just like the rattiest nest on his head, everybody's hair was just on point.
It's
it was
on point.
So good
at all times. Like Cleo,
Yeah.
like Cleo never has a curl out of place. Like she's
Nope.
just like
it's literally perfect.
And what's go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have anything. It was just
well, what I was gonna say is like what I think is interesting about Cleopatra Jones, specifically like who plays her. Her name is Tamara Dobson.
Mm-hmm.
And before she was an actress, she was a model.
Oh.
And part of the reason that you can kind of tell she was a model is because she's super tall. She's 6'2", but I mean, in every I know, but in every like scene, she's wearing like heels, so she's always like,
oh yeah, just like
6'5". Yeah,
yeah. No, I did notice that she was just so tall.
She's very tall, and they have her do a lot of kicks, and I think it's because she's got long legs, but it is kind of funny because like the goon will be standing next to her, and then she kicks, and the foot goes like all the way over his head.
Yeah. I like that the fight scenes only took like, because like in the very end, like she was like kicking somebody and she hit him like twice, and like all of a sudden he was just like bloodied.
Yeah,
right. She hit him like I think once in the stomach, and then like brought her foot down on his back, and then she threw him against a chair. Whole body just like scratched up, and I was like, all right, sure,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it kind of like reminded me because like, and I know that they probably did this because fight choreography back then was still kind of rough.
Yeah,
but seeing her only take or like give like 2 to 3 hits max and incapacitate somebody, it's like that same idea that we were talking about way at the beginning when we first started this podcast of like seeing these people as like superheroes. And I know she wasn't like a real person, but like this wasn't a superhero movie, but the way that she was like fighting was almost superhero like.
Yeah, that's true. I read somewhere, I think it might have been on Wikipedia, and then I tried to find like their source for it, but I couldn't find it. But supposedly this was like one of the first blaxploitation films that advertised itself as being like a martial arts film.
Oh, really?
Which I don't really get the sense of. I mean, we'll talk about like there's 2 side characters who their whole deal is like kung fu.
Yeah.
But what one thing that I was kind of disappointed by was like those guys don't ever really get to do anything.
Yeah, I know.
Which was so we'll talk about them. They're these I can't remember their names, but they're 2 brothers.
Yeah.
And they have like a karate studio.
Yeah.
And the first time you meet them, they're like sparring with each other, and Cleo comes in and is like, "I need your help, boys." Because they, she needs their help to like track somebody. And they're like, "We'll help you out if you can like beat us in a fight or whatever." And then she just like kicks their asses, and it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But what I loved about them too was they also had great outfits. Like,
oh yeah,
they're always wearing like these like blue like suits, and they've got like a headband on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they show them off like as like these karate guys, but then they don't really do any karate. Like they mostly just chase people.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of karate, and there was a lot of just chasing. There was that one car chase, right? Yeah, that was fun.
Yes,
I enjoyed that immensely. Also, the guns were okay. Some of the guns were okay. There was one gun though that Cleo had. It was when that guy on the roof was like shooting down at them.
Yeah.
And she just pulls out this machine gun, seemingly, I think, from nowhere. And it just has like the stupidest looking barrel ever. It's
I know
it's like flared at the end. And I was like, what the hell? And then I don't know if you noticed this, but when they cut to like face on as she was like running towards the camera, and she lifted the gun towards the camera, I could have sworn that you could tell that wasn't a real gun because the barrel didn't exist. Like you could see just like where they had stuck that weird like barrel on
Yeah,
to just like a block of something,
I
and
believe
it didn't go all the way through. I would have to watch it again, but I was like, oh, but there you go.
I believe that.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked so much about like some of the other side characters,
Yeah.
but there's kind of like, so there's like the police chief who's kind of a big side character. There's Ruben, who's her boyfriend, who's kind of the big like love interest kind of thing. But then there's this third kind of side character who's just a wonderful delight. His name's Doodlebug.
Oh, I was so
and
sad when he died.
I was sad too. And you're not supposed to be, I think, because he's supposed to be like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
But just his whole style and like
Oh.
his goons were so funny. Like they're just these like dim-witted, like like guys that he hangs out with who are just like at every second being like, "You heard him right, baby," or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
That whole every time. What did he say? He's like, if you say "that's right" one more time, I don't know what he said. It was so funny though.
Yeah.
Those goons were hilarious. And that whole scene when we first meet him in like his little like lounge or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was very funny because like Cleo walks in, his goons try and like rough her up a little bit. She kicks one of their asses, and then they're just like talking like buddies.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are not friends, but okay.
That's just I mean, this movie's kind of like, it has like a sort of like heightened reality, I guess. Like it's kind of not the real world. But what I love about Doodlebug is he's like this, like, he's supposed to be this like small time player, in this hierarchy of drug dealers or whatever. But I like that he's got this like, he's always carrying like a cane, and he's got this like crazy suit. And just
he has this like charisma about him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is the performer just plays him like, just he's just, every time he's on screen, you're like, oh, there he is.
the guy
there's that guy,
that legend.
Hold on, we're about to have a dog cameo.
Oh hell yeah!
Gotta open it. Hold on.
You got it.
The viewer's gonna see me back all the way up. Hi. Oh shit.
Oh, there's a tail.
Dog time.
Doggy.
2 dogs in here now. Come here.
Oh, Rufus is in there too?
Yep.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Dog time.
Fuck yeah. What's up, Rufus?
This is Rufus, everybody. Say hi, Rufus.
He thinks he's the toughest.
Oh. You okay there? He just tried to leap under the bed.
Yeah, he thinks he's the toughest little guy around, but in reality, he likes to be tucked in. So
he does. He's a good boy.
He is.
All right. That was dog time, everybody. What were we talking about? I don't remember.
Doodlebug.
Doodlebug. Yeah, Doodlebug's the best.
He is great. Real shame that he died. I thought he was gonna make it out of there, but
no, he bites the dust, which his death is like pretty brutal. Like they
it is.
They really just destroy him.
Yeah, they ventilate him pretty good.
Yeah, poor guy. I mean, I guess he had it coming, but
yeah, I mean, in that line of business, there's always that risk.
Yeah.
I really hate, and I don't like saying her name. I hate Mommy. Like, she was just the worst character. I don't know if like the actor did a good job of portraying just like the most insufferable motherfucker around, or if she did a bad job portraying that character.
I mean, I think she does a good job insofar as like she is just chewing the hell out of like every scene that she's in.
Yeah. Also, what was with the ass grab?
Yeah, that one thing I think you could rightly criticize this movie for is it doesn't have a great depiction of like lesbianism, because I think it's implied that mommy is supposed to be like, attracted to women, but she's also this like horny monster, which is like
this horny monster.
which is
Yeah.
like not great,
No.
in terms of like a depiction of
Yeah.
somebody who is a lesbian, but
Yeah.
it's kind of just one of those things. It's like it's a product of the time.
Yeah.
But one thing I read, which was kind of interesting, is that like Mommy and Cleopatra Jones are both supposed to be kind of like these like threats to like white patriarchy, right? Because like Cleo is like this like strong black woman who has like a place in society, right? Like she's worked her way into the government and she's got like this respectable job in this position of authority. But on the flip side of that, Mommy is like a white woman who also has a position of power, and she's a criminal, and she's like a lesbian. And so like she's like this other threat to like white masculinity.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I mean, it
is.
If you take that one step further, it's kind of like, I don't know how well that translates, because she does get, killed, but
dropped from a crane.
Yeah, which is, that's one way to go. But yeah. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, but you're right. She is kind of hard to parse.
Yeah, it's just like the way that she was delivering her lines was, I don't know. It was like nails on a chalkboard every time she was talking. So either that was a good thing because it made me hate the character, or it was a bad thing because it's just bad acting.
I mean, it's hard to tell. I can't tell if I liked her performance or not, but it's certainly memorable.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget it. And yeah, she did Doodlebug wrong.
She did. Justice for Doodlebug.
Honestly,
I do like that she kind of just churns through all her goons, though. Like, she doesn't really have a care in the world about who dies or who doesn't.
No.
But, I forgot what I was going to say. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about the action, I guess. We've talked about it a little bit already, but it is very 1970s. Like,
yes,
it's not you're not getting any like John Wick choreography, but I think it's fun. Like it
is.
It's not like particularly, impactful, but it's fun in that like, early action kind of way where it's a lot of like people running down hallways.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people getting like a big wide punch.
Yeah. A wallop.
Somebody getting hit by a bullet and flying 10 feet away.
Yeah. There was so many times where somebody would get hit, and it was very clear that like they hadn't judged how far they needed to go, or like they were not on their mark correctly, because they would like get hit and then kind of like walk and then jump through like a fucking window or something. And I was like, maybe you should have redone that take and had the guy step a little closer to that.
Yes.
What do I know?
There is a little bit of if you're paying close enough attention, I was kind of looking for it on like the second viewing. It is kind of fun to like look for the stunt people, because especially in this time, like there weren't a lot of stunt women. It was mostly like stunt men. So like, even though Cleo, is played by a woman, when she is like doing a stunt, it'll like cut and it's like clearly a man in a wig. So it is kind of fun, like especially when she's like doing a stunt drive or something. It's kind of fun to look for like what's clearly a man in a wig.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's pretty funny.
It's a fun game to play when you're watching something made before like 2000.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the action's fun.
Oh, it's great. It fits this movie very well, because
Yeah.
I think if it had been any like more refined, I guess, and like more like better choreographed, I don't think it would have fit as well, like the tone
Right.
of the movie. And so just having these like big like wallops and kind of just these like goofy sort of moves was the right choice, even if it was unintentional.
I think so. Yeah. And there is something goofy about it, but it's like it's goofy in like an endearing sense, I guess. Like
Yeah.
because there's some stuff you watch from this era where you're just like, I don't know if that translates, but
Yeah.
I think because it is in that like James Bond, like kung fu kind of like super spy genre, you can get away with a little bit more. Like,
Oh yeah.
like I'm trying to think like that end fight, like the final battle is kind of like it's very silly. Like it takes place in like a junkyard, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of people like running and then like turning a corner, and somebody's like somehow managed to get on the other side of them.
Yeah.
And then they say like a funny one-liner and roundhouse kick them. Which like in a modern
Yeah.
movie you probably couldn't get away with, but I think in this era where it's like it is like that James Bond like
Yeah.
thing. Like I think it's fine.
I also like how anytime somebody shot a gun, they weren't really aiming. They were just kind of shooting in the general vicinity of where the person was. Because I think it was that same scene where the guy was on the rooftop, I think. And I think Cleo like puts her hand just like over the hood of the car, not even looking, and it's just like shooting wildly. But somehow the bullets are still like getting fairly close to the guy. And I love that, because like, and this happens in like Star Trek and too, and like other movies from this time. Like when anytime somebody would shoot, they never like aimed. They just pointed.
Yes.
And then fired. And then, which makes people getting hit by it a lot more funny, because it's like, okay, you see where they're pointing.
Right.
Just like move out of the way.
I do like a lot of it is like when they're shooting, it's just kind of like from the hip. Like,
yeah.
And just kind of firing in like a general direction.
Yeah.
Which is fun. But yeah, I think for the most part the action's good. I can't say there's any like sequence that to me stands out as being like particularly amazing, but
yeah.
That's kind of this era. Like I think a lot of times like with this kind of movie, you're kind of watching it like almost for the vibes, like it just has that like feeling that you like remember from this kind of era of movies where it's just like it's funky and it's goofy, but it's also like got this like great sense of style.
Yeah.
It's like slick and fun, and I don't know. I get a big kick out of it. I think it's fun.
Oh, same. It was. I genuinely, I think I had a great time.
Yeah.
Start to finish, it was just. There was never a moment where I was like, because that's how I judge if a movie's like good or not. Is like if I ever have to like look at my watch or my phone to be like, what time is it? Is the movie almost over? Right. If I never have to do that, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
And this movie just kept me entertained the entire time. I love that scene with the kids and like like parks, and they just have like this great little interaction.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
I like that too, and it kind of fits into there is kind of this like story to be told within this movie about like community like coming together, and like a community like kind of policing themselves, because there is this idea that like the police system, even though Cleopatra is like she's got friends in the system, it's still a system that's like not designed for like the Black community. And that scene that you're talking about like does kind of fit into this idea that like especially at this time, this is like the height of like the Black Panthers and like Black Power. Like there is this theme and this idea of like, Black people have to like look out for each other and look out for themselves, and there needs to be this like sense of community. Like how do you build up your own community, right? Like she's this woman in this position of power, and in a lesser movie, that scene would have been her being like, "Scram, kids, get out of here,"
Right, yeah.
But it's this idea that she's like, give them something to do, pay them, like, let the community kind of police and protect itself. Like, I thought that, I don't know, I just thought it was cute, and it's like it kind of feeds into that larger idea.
It allows the kids, like, it shows those kids that, like, it's okay to be out here, even, like, if your parents aren't around, like, this is a safe place, and, like, adults are gonna, like, they're not gonna be mean to you or weird. Like, it just reinforces that those kids are in a safe place.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I like, too, that, like, there's this, like, I don't know, like, there's, like, even though like Cleo is kind of this like governing force, almost like she's part of this bigger thing, like she's still like tied to her community, and there's like this idea that like even though she is working for the government or whatever, at the end of the day she's still Black, and she's still working, she's never going to lose that part of herself that's like tied to this community, which I just think is great. Like, even if you like criticize these movies for like, having a lot of like negative stereotypes and like, perpetuating a lot of like bad attitudes about Black culture and the Black community, like you can't criticize them for not like attempting to have these messages that were like really like necessary at the time, and even now they're still necessary, right? Like the idea of Black community and like fighting for your rights within the system, but also railing against the system, right? Like, and recognizing that the system is built to oppress you, like, like even though there's that, they have their own rehab center, and it's these people who are against doing drugs, like they're still getting busted by the police and trying to be framed for this thing. So it's like, there is a lot of like layers to these kinds of movies that I think can sometimes get lost if you're the kind of person who like just thinks of them as these like quirky, like funny, like dirty movies, I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. It seems like they require a little bit more critical thinking. Which I think is good. And yeah, and having this be the first movie or blaxploitation movie, I really like the genre. I think it's really cool. I love this has nothing to do with anything. I just remembered it. I love the gratuitous Canada Dry advertisement placement. Like every time Cleo would talk, it would cut and just Canada Dry.
Yes, I love it.
So, but yeah, no, I can see why these films are popular, and I can see what they can do for a community, and so, yeah, if you get a chance, man, watch more.
Yeah, and I think if you're listening to this and like you've never seen this kind of movie before, I think Cleopatra Jones is a good like foot in the door, because like I said, it's a little bit like more palatable, I guess, in terms of like the themes are there, but they're not as like harsh. The language is a little bit easier to parse, and like I watched some other ones. So like I watched this movie called Coffee. It's spelled Coffy. And that one, even though it's like in a similar vein, it's like way like dirtier, I guess. But in terms of like like sex stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like it's a lot of like gratuitous nudity and one thing you're always going to have to deal with when you talk about any kind of movie made in the past is like you kind of have to like turn off the part of your brain that wants to be like, oh, you shouldn't say that, or you can't do this, or like what, like you kind of have to take them at face value and then like assess them with a mindset of like you probably wouldn't or shouldn't make something like this anymore, but you have to look at it like with the merits of what they were dealing with at the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I think like I said, like if you're interested in this genre, I would start with this one because it's a little bit easier to like palate. If you like it, then I would start looking into some of the more insane ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you could start with this one. I think you could start with there's a movie called Shaft, which is it's like a private eye, like crime thriller thing.
Okay.
I think you could watch Trouble Man, which is has a great soundtrack. It was scored by Marvin Gaye.
Oh, hell
so that one's good. Yeah, if you're interested in this genre at all, there's hundreds of them that you can watch, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I agree with you. I think it's a good way to kind of introduce yourself to this idea.
Yeah. I forgot everything.
That's okay. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, excuse me. Oh, great. I can't cut that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else?
I'm trying to think. I like that she had a phone in her car.
Yes.
Just like a whole landline. I was like trying to figure out how that would even work. And I guess you would have to just hook it up to the antenna. Yeah. I'd have to kind of go through the radio waves.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes, like, you know, when they had car phones, like in the 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how did they even work? Like, I don't even know. Like,
yeah.
Like pre-cell phone. Like, how did you get that to work? But
right. I have to look into it. They had to have just tied it into the radio wires that go to the antenna, and so when you talk into the phone, it just goes through as if it was like a radio signal, and then just bounces to wherever it needs to go.
Yeah. Oh, so, I guess that makes sense. Or they just had a really long cable.
People driving around, cables hanging out the back of their car, people tripping all over the place. Yeah, that's probably it, actually. Yeah. So
back in the day, that's what it was. It was just a lot of cables.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I had anything else. It was just a solid movie.
It's a very solid movie.
It was a good one.
It's short.
It is
an hour 22 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It's very breezy.
Yeah. Easy breezy lemon squeezy.
Easy breezy. I'm trying to think if I had anything else. Let me look at my notes really quick.
Yeah.
You stall.
Y'all. These peanut butter Oreos. Holy shit. These things fucking slap. All right, I'm on number 3 of these currently. If you like peanut butter, fuck these up. They're so good.
That's good to know.
I tried them at my cousin's house in Nebraska. Shout out cousin Andy.
What up, cousin Andy?
He had them just like laying out on his counter, and I was like, "Are those?" Anyway, yeah. And I was like, "Can I?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I tried it, and I was like, that just was like a religious experience. And he was like, yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
so anyway, that was my stall.
Okay, that was good. I got nothing else.
Yeah. Also, we're not sponsored by Oreo. I just love Oreos. So
not yet.
Unless
Oreo sponsor us, please.
Please, I'm begging you.
I can put away like a package of Oreos like
Oh, yeah.
so fast. Like
It's
I have-
disgusting.
I have to stop myself because I will just
Yeah.
sit and eat the whole thing.
Yeah, I literally this morning while I was watching the last half, I went through just a whole row of them.
Oh yeah, it's
just
so easy to do.
Yeah, subconsciously, I like finished the last one in that row, and I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta stop."
Controversial opinion.
What's up?
I like the cookie part better than I like the cream part.
That's valid. That is actually very valid. In normal Oreos, I think I agree. With these peanut butter ones, I think I like the cream just a little bit more because it actually, like, it just seems like they just put peanut butter on it. Like, it's not actually like a cream. It's like actually just peanut butter.
Well,
and it's like actually like as creamy as peanut butter. Bro, so good.
Well, I gotta go.
Yeah. If you get a chance, get them, but have your wife hide them because you will eat all of them in one sitting.
I fully believe that is what I would do. Okay, we've come to the end.
Yeah.
So, what would you rate it out of 10? How many peanut butter Oreos out of 10 would you give it?
7.8.
Hell yeah! All right.
7.8.
What's your reasoning?
Reasoning, product of its time. There were some moments where they said some unfortunate slurs that was a little jarring.
Yeah.
The action, while I understand it was the 70s, I was like, I could have lasted a little longer and been a little bit more believable.
Yeah.
And then some of the dialogue was but I overall, like I said, I had a great time. I thought it was fun. And so yeah, 7.8.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I think for me, this is like a good 7.5, I think.
Okay.
Like you said, it's a product of its time, so I can only give it so much.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's just fun and it's an easy watch. Like I said, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah. And the other thing is I've seen much worse. Much worse that has come out recently.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
We watched Mexican American.
Oh God. Yeah.
So it's hard to really be like, oh, that was a terrible movie, because we've seen terrible.
I think that's the worst thing we're ever gonna watch.
I don't know. I feel like we have to watch his entire filmography just to really make sure, because he might have made something worse.
He might have. I don't know if I want to even go down that road, but
oh God, no. I would rather eat glass.
Oh yeah. Actually, I mean, I don't really want to spoil it, but I do have our next bad movie.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, 7.5 out of 10. I think it's great. It's easy to watch.
It is.
It's only an hour and a half. I think it's not the best example of the genre, but I think it's a good way to get into the genre.
Yeah.
And like I said, if this is the kind of thing that sounds interesting to you, give it a shot. If it doesn't wrap you in the first 10 minutes, then
whatever.
Yeah. So go check it out.
Yep.
If you're watching this, listening to this, and you want to keep up with us, next time we will be talking about Indiana Jones and
hell yeah,
the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So you can look forward to that next time. In between that, we'll have a bonus episode that you can check out. But yeah, that's pretty much the episode. If you like this episode, what should they do?
Thumbs up, 5 stars. Maybe write us a nice little note.
Yes.
You can email us.
Absolutely.
At vivalaaction@gmail.com.
Yeah, sure can.
You could message us on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
Tell your friends and family about us. Tell your dog about us.
Yes.
Your grocer.
Yes.
Your barber.
Yes.
Your neighbor.
Your local pimp.
Your local pimp.
Um,
Your congressman.
yes. Call your congressman.
Right.
Tell him to listen.
If you can, get in touch with the president, Mr. Joe Biden. Let him know.
Yeah, let him know. Tell. Let's see. It's almost Easter when we're recording this, so
no, Jesus.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jesus is about to come back. Let him know.
Yeah. So when he gets back, just let him know real quick. The Easter Bunny, obviously.
Yes. The end of this joke. Hopefully, you should tell it.
Nice. Well done.
But yeah, that's the episode. So you can find me within the leafy green comfort of an iceberg lettuce, and you'll find Grayson
going to town on a package of Oreos.
Going to town on a package of Oreos at the back of a Walmart parking lot.
Yep.
That's been the episode. Bye.
Bye.
Hold on, I gotta stop recording.
You got it. You got it.
Manage recording. Stop recording.